This is Sam Logue here for Green Blood Boxing, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Lily White Lightning, Eric Donovan, the current Irish Featherweight champion. Eric, how you doing, man?
Yes, thanks for having me, Sam. Doing well. Doing really well.
Brilliant. No, I appreciate you coming on. I really do. I suppose let's just get started. Like, how are you managing the kind of times of isolation? I know it's a little bit difficult for everyone, but how are you getting on?
Yeah, it's a strange time, isn't it? But I'm just trying to keep focused. I think a routine is very important in these times. Very important. So I have a structure from one end of the week to the next. My kids were with me for 7 weeks of the lockdown, and I loved that. Absolutely loved it. And we did so much together. And they went back. They're gone back now to their mother's house for the month of May. But I think they're coming back up here in June. So I'm looking forward to getting them back up here again. But I mean, from Monday to Friday, I'm training every day. I'm doing a couple of online classes with the Kildare Sports Partnership. So I'm bringing fitness to a lot of people. Whoever wants to avail of them, free online Facebook workouts, and thanks to the Kildare Sports Partnership for that. But yeah, that's it. I mean,
you're keeping busy anyway, eh?
Yeah, there's not much more we can do, and you just try and stay positive and keep moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you managing your training? I presume you're still trying to keep quite as you said, you've got your structure, but in terms of specifically your training, how are you managing that? Are you still keeping up to date? I know you train with Kenny Egan and obviously Joe Clifford, I think, as well. So are you keeping in touch with the guys? Are you trying to work on technical aspects of your game, or is it more just keeping fit? But how is that how's your training being structured and monitored at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, just working on strength and conditioning, getting the running in as well. So making sure that, keeping my stamina and fitness levels up, and focusing on my boxing drills, boxing repetition of the fundamental movements, that's where the success lies, is repetition over the basic fundamentals of boxing, and just trying to hone in on them and master them, and it's good to kind of get the time to slow down and practice, as opposed to being very working at high intensity and tempo. I don't really need to do that at the moment. I can just slow things down and work on a technical basis. But in relation to Ken's in touch with me, and we're on the phone regularly, and he knows, the thing is with Ken, he knows that the type of life that I live as well. He doesn't need to be coercing my twisting my arm or anything. He knows that I'm quite disciplined and quite focused, and a driven type of person. So I'm not going to be going through the motions or resting on my laurels.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's lucky as a trainer, because I don't think every fighter is exactly the same. But no, fair play, because I mean it is difficult, isn't it, at times? I think it's difficult for anyone. I mean, if you do have that kind of structure in place, it is easier if you kind of have that vision and that plan, and a big, you obviously have goals that you're aiming at, and obviously it does allow you to keep focused. But I mean, everyone suffers a little bit from, especially in times like this, of maybe suffering a little bit with motivation or their mental health. And I know you've come out and kind of spoke about your struggles that you've had with mental health and stuff like that. So I mean, does that come into play? Do you ever kind of have any kind of small battles with that in times of isolation?
Oh yeah, hugely. I think mental health, for anyone that's struggling with their mental health or has any sort of issues or problems going on at home, whether it's mentally or physically or emotionally or whatever, it's a tough time. It's a really, really tough time for them, because all of the supports systems and support networks that were normally, now I'm not saying they were always available, but there was a good chance that you could kind of get in touch with them. And now, since this pandemic and the lockdown, a lot of that is not as accessible as it once was. So I really feel for a lot of those people. But for me, I'm keeping in touch with the support group that I have. I have a good few friends, and I would call them like they're very, very good friends. But they're my support group as well. You know what I mean? In terms of like keeping the mind right, keeping the mind healthy, and and just having good, honest connection and chats on a weekly basis. And
Yeah,
that's been a real godsend for me.
definitely.
Technology gets a lot of rap at times, but
But
it's after helping. It's after helping so many people. I think we would have been lost without it during this pandemic.
definitely, and that's the other thing is, although some people would maybe be, it would be difficult for them to maintain those systems of support or those relationships that really help them, or even just their day to day, just whatever they get up to that
Yeah.
helps them. They, if they didn't have, think of how much worse it would be if they didn't have
Mm-hmm.
media, or they didn't have this technology to be able to still keep in touch with people, etc. So yeah, so definitely
Yeah.
it's a bit of a blessing in this time, for sure.
Yeah. And I think people as well need to kind of look after themselves as well. There's a responsibility on yourself too. Like, you can't just like sit back and say, oh, well, this is closed or that's closed or we can't go here, we can't go there, and then feel sorry for yourself and there has to be
Yeah,
like, if you're going to take your mental health seriously, you got to take you got to take full responsibility
you've
for
got
it.
to have ownership over it, don't you?
Take ownership and put the things in place. Like,
Yeah,
it's one thing having an issue or having a problem, it's another thing doing something about it. So I think for people to accept it, take ownership, and then try and use the tools,
100%.
and look after, like, do a bit of fitness, get out in the fresh air and look after themselves in terms of their diet and stuff. And like, that's why I taught you about routine.
Yeah,
Routine is so important when you have a good positive structure in your life from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. Even this routine is such as breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the good appropriate times, and a bit of exercise or activity in between.
yeah,
And if you can do that, then your mind will respond to that. The diet, if you're being physically active in a positive way, your diet will come into line with that. Your sleep pattern will come into line with that. Your thought patterns will come into. So if you're not doing that, if you're not in a good healthy routine and you're binge watching TV and you're not being physically active, you're sitting on the couch all day, you're on your phone all day, social media, just kind of scrolling, then everything about your sleep, your diet, your thinking will all come down into this kind of pattern of negativity, a rut. It's like a rut that you get yourself in, and it'll just go downhill.
yeah,
And it's funny because I've had experiences of both sides, but I find that when I'm up and active and fit and being positive with my day in terms of having a structure and a routine, that
yeah.
everything comes naturally and organic and good. The thoughts, the sleep, the eating, the habit, the appetite, everything. So
Definitely,
a
yeah.
lot to be said for it.
100%, yeah, 100%. They all kind of feed into each other, kind of positive reinforcement almost from kind of task to task, and all those different positive elements. But no, 100%, and I think it's a really important thing to touch on as well in this kind of time, and especially with someone like yourself who I know who's had those kind of encounters with mental health and stuff. So thanks for touching on that. But I suppose let's move on, because I do want to touch. I mean, you've been vocal in the last few weeks. Talking to irishboxing.com, who are, shout out to the lads, they're obviously excellent, kind of covering boxing all the time, and especially in Ireland, they're unbelievable. But you were talking to the lads recently, and obviously named quite a few names who you'd love to get in there with, kind of seemingly in the quite near future. I mean, names like Carl Frampton, Jono Carroll, these kind of guys, and then obviously some guys who are perhaps a little further down the levels at the moment, but still big names like Michael Conlon, Anto Kakachi, Tyrone McCullough is one that a lot of people seem to have got on board with. I mean, who of those names would you kind of really like if you had a choice, and why would that be?
Well, I said the dream fights would be like Frampton and Carroll because, well, first of all, let's go back to how this came about. This came about because there's talk of no international boxing happening for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And if we want to recommence with boxing, then we're going to have to start boxing domestically in domestic fights.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm okay with that. And I said, if I got the chance to box domestically, who would you want to fight? And I think Jono Carroll at the moment is on an all-time high. and he's an exciting fighter. I really like watching him. I'm a fan. Carl Frampton is another excellent fighter. I'm a fan of his as well.
Yeah.
I was there when he won the world title, and I loved it. Loved every minute. I sparred with him many rounds. We represented Ireland for a long time, and so like he's a two. Like Carl Frampton's one of the best Irish boxers of all time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Of all time, and he'll go down as an all-time legend.
Yeah, great of Irish boxing for sure.
So I kind of feel like that's where you want to be setting your sights, getting in with these guys. Jono Carroll is flying at the moment, absolutely flying. But I think I'm better than him. I think I can beat him.
Yeah.
But you have to get the chance to do that, and there's no disrespect there, but he's after earning his stripes. He's after going out and doing it. Like he's after delivering, and fair play to him. And then I just said there, the dream fights with them boys are probably just a bit too far away from me in terms of talking about going up the ladder or whatever, or where you're at, where we're at.
Accessibility as well. Like, it's difficult to attain those fights at the moment, but I mean,
and then
there's
only two featherweights then that are kind of like in my weight, and that's Michael Connell and Tyrone McCullough. So them two fights would be very interesting. Very, very interesting, and there'd be big fights as well. Like, I definitely think that if I fought either of those, I would be their toughest opponent. And they might not agree. They'll probably think, no, we've boxed tougher or whatever, but I definitely think I would be their toughest opponent. And I definitely would have no qualms in saying that they'd be my toughest opponent as a professional.
Yeah.
So, and then you've kind of got the super featherweights as well, if I had an option, if I had a choice, I'd go for featherweight first, because that's a national champion of featherweight. So
exactly.
It'd be Conlon or McCullough. They'd be deadly fights.
Yeah.
I think the Irish people would love them fights. And then, you've got Fergal McCrory, Kakachi, John Nevin, Declan Garrity, all them boys in around super featherweight, which would be amazing fights as well. If you put them fights in any way, any combination at all, it's a massive fight.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's a really good pool of guys around around that weight class in Ireland. That kind of anywhere from super bantamweight. Tyrone, I know, has kind of been fighting predominantly at super bantamweight, moved up to featherweight for the Golden Contract tournament.
Yeah,
obviously anywhere from kind of featherweight, super featherweight. It's a good pool in Ireland. We really are. The levels are raising. But I mean, do you think, is there one fight that stands out of those kind of names that, kind of ticks more boxes than others, so maybe in terms of it's a big fight, it brings attention, but maybe it's maybe more winnable? Not to say that you wouldn't be able to win against the likes of Frampton, but of course, Carl is, say, for example, you would have to put Carl at the top of that pile. He's kind of done it, testing and proven, whereas some of the guys at the back end, maybe the likes of Fergal McCrory, obviously hasn't reached those heights. So is there a balance of one of those guys that kind of, as I say, ticks more boxes?
Jono Carroll.
Yeah.
Jono Carroll. I beat Jono Carroll 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
People don't believe me. People think I'm crazy when I say that, but I watch Jono Carroll even against Scott Quigg. Scott Quigg was a shell of a man, half a man, like half the man that he was. And Jono, like, gave him a boxing lesson, but took him a long time to get him out there. Now, I know Jono hasn't got the biggest dig, but he's a great fighter, like, and he's never been known as a knockout artist, but technically and entertainment wise, he's great. But I just think I could beat him, and not in the kind of like, oh, you're crap, I'll beat you kind of way. He's fucking class, but I think I can beat him.
Yeah.
And that's and I think that, like, if I boxed against him, I would know what to do at every moment, at every juncture. That's just the belief I have in myself. So
from watching him, you obviously feel like you have the beatings of him, but is there anything that you see that you kind of could take advantage of then? I mean, it seems like you're kind of
loads.
Want to hit any of them points, or you want to keep that secret?
Not really. I think I beat him at close quarters. I think I beat him on the back foot. I think I beat him in every department. So, like, but it would be a cracking fight.
I think it would be a very entertaining fight as well. And one thing that we have to kind of credit Jono for is is he does kind of, he has that talking game as much as he's exciting in the ring, but he has managed to talk and be kind of entertaining at press conferences.
Honestly, I think he's
etc.
brilliant for boxing. I think he's great for
Yeah,
boxing. I think he's a good. He's one of those guys that captures the imagination of the non kind of boxing fans as well. You know, so
yeah, the more
he's
general
good.
public.
He is good for boxing. I think he's going to have a great career no matter what. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it sounds to me like you weren't maybe as impressed with the Quig win as some other people were. I mean, I think it's not up for debate that it was a very good performance by Jono. But would you? It sounds like you would maybe put forward that Quig wasn't.
I just think I just felt that the Quig's poor showing enhanced Jono's performance.
I get what you mean. But definitely was a good performance, and it's a fight I would tune into, yourself and Jono. I think it'd be a good press conference as well, which I think is an important thing as well. You know, that people.
He's
need
a cracking
to,
beard as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has an impressive beard.
Reminds me of your man in the 300.
King Leonidas, is it?
Yeah. Every time I look at him, it just reminds me of that guy. He's good. He's a character. He's a character.
No, definitely. But look, would be a good fight, all right. But that was kind of, I wanted to talk about that one actually, because I thought, you had a Twitter exchange with Jono a while back as well, and it was kind of interesting. You were kind of looking to make a bit of a push for it, but he had almost kind of alluded to maybe he was kind of past that step, which I thought was an interesting thing as well. I mean, for me, how do you then? I know you've signed with Mark Dunlop recently, just moved away from Irish Boxing Ireland Promotions, who obviously done a lot for you, got you to 12-0 in your professional career. With Mark on your side now, do you see kind of more of a pathway to maybe attaining fights like Jono, or even but pushing in that direction towards those kind of bigger names and bigger paydays and more attention, more media attention?
Yeah. No, I'm happy with the move that I made with Mark. I just feel like we've hit a bit of a stumbling block. No fault of any of ours. It's just this current climate that we're in.
Yeah.
We did plan to hit the ground running and with a fight, with our first fight together back in April, but obviously the show was cancelled and postponed and whatever. But so I'm looking forward to getting up and going. But any of the chats and discussions I've had with Mark already have been very exciting and very reassuring. So I do know that like where he's thinking and where he sees his vision is in line with my own, and I like that. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank Boxing Ireland Promotions, because they've been very good to me as well. And I know you said that they've done a lot for me, and yes, they did do a lot for me, but I've done a lot for them as well. So it was a two-way process, but I just felt like there comes a time, and you have to seize your opportunities and your moments in life, in all walks of life. And I felt if I didn't take the time now, that it would go past me. And it's funny that I'm saying that now, and we're actually sitting in this current circumstances where we can't even box. So I don't know, but like, look, I went with my heart and my head, and I'm hoping for. I'm just trying to keep the faith and hoping that. Initially, I was hoping to become a European champion in the year 2020. So if I have to postpone that by 1 year to wait for my destiny, I don't mind.
That's not too bad, really. I mean, and at the end of the day as well, there's a couple of aspects. It's the same for everyone. Pretty much everybody around the world is in the same situation. And the other thing is, it's what you make of it, and you can rest on your laurels, like you mentioned, or you can go out there and you can work hard every day. You can be as fit as you can be. You can drill the kind of more old school boxing techniques or whatever. You can really get certain things down. You can still improve, and it's just about your dedication and putting yourself into it. But definitely, I think it's interesting. And the relationship with Mark Dunlap now that's more of a managerial role. Would I be correct?
Yeah.
And
manager and promoter.
Manager and promoter. Okay. Now I know Mark has kind of recent times has kind of had links to Matchroom. Would I be right in saying that? He's obviously placed Tennyson, James Tennyson, quite well. And he's obviously now, after being kind of signed to a promotional deal with Matchroom, which is obviously especially after you've had a few fights and you've kind of maybe have a title, or you've built yourself up. It kind of seems to be the way to go now, is to build yourself up first and then to get signed, because maybe you can get more out of the deal. But it seems like Tennyson has really kind of shown his value, and then someone like Eddie Hearn is able to say, well, actually, I want him because he brings a lot to he can bring a lot to the shows. Would that be kind of the way you're thinking, maybe to use those kind of connections, or have you discussed it with Mark?
Yeah, well, when I spoke with Mark, I spoke with a couple of managers actually, and what I liked about Mark was Mark didn't just talk the talk. He has delivered for the likes of James Tennyson, Tommy McCarthy, Paul Hyland Jr. He's got these guys on Sky Sports shows. They've boxed on DAZN cards, or DAZN or whatever.
DAZN, yeah.
So like, I feel like that's where I want to be. I'm nothing against small hall shows or whatever, because they're very, very important to build up. And I absolutely loved being the main event in them shows. But I'd rather now take a risk of fighting somebody on the undercard of a big DAZN show, even if I'm 3, 4, 5 fights down the card. It was more about opportunity. And I'd rather be 5 or 6 fights down the card with a chance to shine on a big card and a big promotion, than be the main event in a small hall where I'm not really moving up the ranks, or I'm not really attracting the big names. 100%. And that was it for me. So it's risk reward, and I just want to, when I do eventually hang up the gloves, I want to be able to say, like, yeah, I tried my best and I took the risks.
Definitely. So then that actually kind of allows me to segue quite well into the next one. Is the main goal or the main aim, is it more financial based or is it more achievement based? Obviously you are looking to get onto those bigger cards. You want to make more of a name for yourself, but what is the kind of, what is the bigger goal, as I say? Is it more financial, or is it more about the belts and the achievements and the big fights?
No, for me, it's mostly about the belts. Well, one belt in particular, and that's the European debut belt. I'd love to win that. I really would.
Nice. The blue belt's nice. It is.
Well, not only that, it's because I was retired for 3 years. I was retired from boxing for 3 years, from the age of 27 up to 30, and then I turned pro at 30. So, and I've had a lot of shortcomings in my life, and I probably failed to reach my own potential. Missed out on some amazing opportunities through my own fault. Simple as that. But not everybody gets a chance to redeem themselves. Not everybody has a spiritual awakening, and they're still young enough to make a difference in their career. Sometimes people grow up at 40 or 50 and they're saying, "Oh God, I could have, should have, would have, whatever." Yeah. But for me, I kind of felt like I got my shit together basically. Yeah. And I was still young enough to be able to go back and maybe redemption, and achieve not only it's like I'm already after achieving so much already, but it's more about, like, at times in my career, amateur career, I felt like I was just operating on there was almost a silhouette of a man. There was no heart and soul in me. There was no, like, I like, from a mental health point of view, I was in a very bad place, a very dark place, and I was just kind of, I was there, but I wasn't there, I wasn't, there was no fire in me. I was just operating on talent and skill alone that I had as a young kid. And I had no real drive or passion or focus. And that's why I went away from it for 3 years. And I went back into education and I learned a lot about myself. And I kind of went on to this kind of development program and pathway for life, basically, to grow as a man. And I spent 8 months in Kazakhstan and represented them in the World Series of Boxing. I kind of felt like I grew up out there as an individual, as a man. And when I got back, I went back into education. And education was something I walked away from at 15 years of age. So I went back at 27 and I started
a daunting task in itself, of course.
Hugely. So from the age of 27 to 30 and my life experiences from the past, I just kind of put it all together. And then I was kind of like, right, I'm 30 years old now. I still have the burning desire that I lost throughout most of my 20s was back. And I felt like, right, you know, I can't really do anything about what's gone on before, but I can actually close close these finishing chapters to the story the way, you know, like fully, honestly, and, you know, 100% without any regrets, and say, I lost my way throughout the middle part of this book, but you know what? I got behind the wheel again and closed it in my own, you know, with my own best efforts.
Yeah, kind of the best way you possibly could. You're kind of you're writing those last chapters to the best of your ability, almost.
Yeah.
That's
that
interesting.
For me means more than money. It's about me being able to put my head on the pillow at night at the end of my career and say, I rectified that. I redeemed myself. And be okay for the rest of my life, rather than looking back saying I was a fucking idiot. Like, I should have did this, I should have did that. You know, I don't want that. I don't want to have those regrets.
You don't want to be the shoulda, woulda, coulda guy, like you kind of refer to there already. Yeah, and I mean, like, and I suppose the European title is that kind of benchmark for you. But what I find interesting about that is, obviously, to be honest, I think that belt is a brilliant belt that doesn't necessarily get enough respect in a way, you know, kind of it doesn't get held in high enough regard, in my opinion. I think if you're the blue belt European champion, you know, not a WBO European or one of those, which have value in their own right. But I mean, you know, a legitimate EBU European champion, I think that is such a high achievement in the professional game. But would you say that because of maybe the slip ups in your earlier career, that kind of that's the benchmark for you now, whereas maybe in the past, like a professional world title would have been the benchmark? Is that kind of see where, if you know where I'm getting at? Is that
no, I do, I totally do. To be honest with you, when I started, no, I hear you. But when I started a professional career, I just said, look, I'd like to maybe even get a chance to add an Irish title, maybe. And it wasn't until I started actually sparring again and putting the work in again that I said to myself, maybe I am. And I started sparring people. I started sparring former world champions, sparred James Tennyson, sparred Marco McCullough, sparred Ryan, went over to spar Ryan Burnett, was his sparring partner for the training camp for Lee Haskins. And
there you go.
I sparred with Simpewe Venteke. He's a South African, former South African world champion who had a great fight with Nonita Donaire, and then he got stopped in an injury, but there was nothing, and he was well in that fight. So I started to kind of spar these well-renowned guys and handle myself and feel like, hey, am I raising the bar a little bit too low?
Yeah.
And so am I underestimating myself here? And it was only the more I boxed, the more I trained, I got more belief and more confidence in myself. And so I set out the benchmark with a European title. But like, if I can get there, then I will be very, very happy and content. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to retire. If I got there and the pathway open to a world title, like
that's the new goal. It's the new benchmark.
I would jump out of that without a doubt.
Definitely. So maybe in the way I'm perceiving that is that kind of you have more of a realistic. You're trying to be realistic with yourself and with your goals, rather than to kind of, you know, it's easy to be. And maybe that comes from.
Well, anybody can say, I'm going to be world champion, or I want to be this, I want to be that. But like, you know, it's one thing saying, it's another thing kind of having a genuine, realistic pathway towards that goal. And pathway, pathway. And I think I'm in touch and distance for the European title shot. I really do. Like, I'm 100%. In the top 10 of the European, and number 9, I think, in the EU rankings. And
in the EU rankings, okay.
And I think like 1 or 2 more scalps and I'm knocking on the door for the EBU, you know. So
100%. And do you think is, in terms of opposition now going forward, what way would you like to go? So after the pandemic, or even if you happen to be able to fight in a closed doors event, whatever way that works, you know, in the next few months, but in your next couple of fights, is it going to be, let's get straight into now, like, let's raise the opposition a little bit, let's look for opponents that are going to get me higher up those EU rankings, or kind of what's the is there any kind of strategic plan, for lack of a better term, there, for how you want to go?
Not necessarily at the moment. No, I kind of feel like I might have to travel. I think I will have to travel. I just think with the situation, the way boxing is now in Ireland at the moment, especially in the Republic, it's quite difficult to attract big names and even to get shows up and running there. But I will probably have to travel and have some fights in around Belfast and across maybe England, the UK, and maybe even Europe. Like I could even be boxing on some of those DAZN European shows, like the Italians or Spanish shows or whatever. I might have to go into someone's backyard and actually take the title from them. But 100%. If I do that, if I can go away and do that, whether it's behind closed doors or not, it doesn't really matter to me. But my dream is, if I do win the European title, would be to come back home and defend it in Ireland live on RTE, and that'd be
amazing.
That would be hopefully the resurrection of boxing back in Ireland, in the Republic, and to bring everything to the fore of what's good about this sport. And hopefully I can. That would be a dream. That would be a dream scenario for me.
Yeah, to be kind of almost the face of Irish boxing, because to be honest, like, I mean, you're kind of almost making a reference back to the Bernard Dunn days, in the kind of early 2000s. I mean, up to kind of 2009, I think, is when he lost his world title. But I mean, there were the days, weren't they, when RTE, when the national broadcaster is broadcasting boxing.
Yeah,
this is when you had interest. It's the last time I can remember like a legitimate, real interest in professional boxing. And the funny thing is that actually now professional boxing in Ireland is debatably in a better state. Like there's more boxers. I mean, a lot of boxers up the north as well, but there's a lot of good pros. We have a lot of guys who are now pushing on at that kind of world level. We've had Carl, we've had Andy Lee, we've had these really good. We've got Katie. Like, I mean, we have one of the biggest superstars in the whole world, Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
And we don't have any attention from any of our national broadcasts. I know TG Carr have broadcasted a few of your fights, which is amazing to see them on board.
They do great stuff for boxing as well. They do great stuff for the amateur boxing, and they have done for the pro boxing as well. Ray Milet's card and the last man standing, and then of course my Irish title fight live as well. So like, even RT would be a dream because it'd get to more people. But
it's bigger.
Even if I had to go, even if I had.
Oh.
No problem.
There you go. Continue there. We just lost you there for a sec.
Oh no, just saying, like, either like RT or TG Cat or either rider, if I got on to one of them to defend the European title, it would be class. I'd love it.
Unbelievable. Yeah. No, look, it would be excellent, and that would be amazing to see. Also, from my perspective, someone who's kind of in that more media role or in that side of it, just to kind of get boxing back on the main broadcast or on RTE would be amazing. Headline, but anyway, by anyone who can headline it. But the thing is we have those guys. We have likes of yourself, Jono Carroll, Declan Geraghty, all of these guys, Ray Moyle, and then we have all the lads in the north as well. I know a lot of guys are with NTK and stuff, but you've got the likes of Sen and Kelly, Pierce O'Leary, all these young guys as well coming up who really can. I mean, there's a really good group of guys there who could push it forward. But I think that's the dream. And if you could be the head man there to bring it back to the O2 or the Tree Arena as it is now,
it would be a responsibility that I would absolutely pleasure and love to have. I'd love to have it.
Absolutely. Look, Eric, I've taken up enough of your time, and look, it's been absolutely brilliant. I really do appreciate you coming on and talking to me today. Thanks a lot, man. Look, Sam Logue here for Green Blood Boxing. Thanks a lot, Eric, and I hopefully we can catch up again real soon, man.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it, and keep up the good work. Best of luck with the Green Blood. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much, mate. Take it easy.